All right. Good Tuesday evening to everybody out there in the social media world. We are excited to be debuting some new technology and also giving a update on the Dane County housing market. So we are the Witkins Realty Team. I'm Justin Witkins, and with us here this evening as well is Mr. Grant Samuelson.
Hi, everybody. We're talking into the owl. This is some new technology we're trying out, it's pretty interesting. We have a split screen. We're going to be able to show some video screen and screen. We also have a few PowerPoint slides to go through. We hope to get through this in about 20-25 minutes. If I'm looking that way, talking to Justin. If he's looking this way, he's talking to me, just so you're not confused. Back to Justin.
It feels a bit like mission control here.
It does, actually, yeah.
We absolutely love pushing into new technology, and we also absolutely love being able to do the deep dive on the housing market. So if you've been following along at home, you know that we've kind of dubbed 2023 as the year of events, and we've steadily been doing typically about 2 different education focused events every single month. And a lot of those have been focused on buyers and trying to get them set and in a really good position as we kind of ramp up to the peak of spring market here. And we're shifting gears a little bit now and trying to shed some light on things for sellers. So we're going to do a deep dive on just a ton of information about the market, different market segments, and I think most people out there are really going to find a lot of good takeaways in it. So I'm going to give the floor to Grant, and we're going to transition over to take a look at some of the slides that he's got.
He comes later. New technology.
Bear with us here.
Yeah,
yep.
We're working on it. It's pretty cool, though. I wish you could be here. This thing is really neat. There we go. There we go. So Justin and I have kind of split this up into his thing and my thing in a way. My thing is about sort of basic principles, right? So I'm going to talk about 2 basic things tonight, which you need to know as a seller, but also as a buyer. You need to know what you're getting into, not just in terms of the complexities of buying a home, getting your finances together, changing your life completely when you buy a home. You have to know what you're getting into in terms of what market you're entering into. So I've broken this down into a couple of basic principles. I want to talk about market types, and they're what I consider to be 3 plus 1, that 1 being today, and also a little bit about market segments, because they're behaving somewhat differently now, and I want to tell you what that means. So let's go to the next slide. First on the left, the first type of market is a balanced market. Actually, could we go back? Sorry about that. Market types. So there's 4 plus 1. There's a balanced market, a buyer's market, a seller's market, and today's market. And we'll go to the next slide, which shows a balanced market. Now, a balanced market is essentially what it sounds like. Sellers and buyers roughly working in accord. The transactional action, which is the center section of the graph, is consistent. And if you go to the next slide, the supply of homes to buy typically meets 5 to 7 months of demand on a rolling basis. This is kind of what realtors think about in terms of inventory. How many months of supply, or rather, how many months of demand can the current supply of homes meet on a rolling basis? In a balanced market, negotiation is also active and common. Prices are, if you will, rational, but they do vary depending on the property. In a balanced market, a subpar property, so to speak, might, or a plain property, something not unique, might sit on the market a little while, might sell at a discount, whereas some sort of mid-century modern showpiece at the right price point might fly off the shelf in a weekend. So that's a balanced market. There's a lot of variation. Prices are a little bit more rational, and days on market likewise can vary. So we'll go to the next slide. Buyer's market is type number 2. These are all pretty easy to understand if you just think about it in terms of basic economics, right? This is about supply and demand, what I call the blunt instrument of economics. So a buyer's market is, there are essentially more sellers or more homes to buy than there are buyers to buy them. If we go to the next slide, that supply meets, say, 7 to 10 months of demand as well, but there's active negotiation. Buyers have a little bit more leverage. Days on market are generally higher, and there are downward pressure on prices, again, simply referencing basic supply and demand dynamics. A seller's market is just the opposite. There are more buyers than homes for them to buy. If you go to the next slide, now, a seller's market is kind of what we've been in for many, many years. I should say also, we haven't seen a balanced market in the Madison market for 20 years. We probably haven't seen a buyer's market since the downturn in the late aughts, 2000 and aughts. We have been in a seller's market for quite some time now. A seller's market is supply for about 1 to 2 months of demand. Negotiation is less active, and buyers have less leverage. And most importantly, I think multiple competing offers are common. This all leads to more competition, upward pressure on prices, and again, referencing basic laws of economics and supply and demand. If there are more buyers than things to buy, prices tend to be lower. Competition is less. If there are fewer things to buy than there are buyers, competition increases. What we're in today this is my own term for it. We're in a seller's market, but I call it a distorted seller's market. And if you get a sense of the graph, I'm not sure what kind of screen you're looking on, but hopefully it's visible. What's happened is that those 2 neat circles have become distended, squished. The seller's side has been squished kind of that way, meaning there are few homes on the market at any given time. That buyer's circle, though, is important to understand as both a seller and a buyer. My intention with that is to show you that there are large numbers of active buyers in the market. But because competition is so fierce and there's so few things to buy, the number of actually active buyers in the market is dwarfed by the number of buyers who are circling, hovering, waiting for an opportunity, waiting for the market to change, waiting for interest rates to shift. So thinking as a seller, you should not just think about who's actively in the market, who's going to be writing an offer on your home, who's going to be attending the open house and thinking seriously about buying your home. You should also remember that there are large numbers of buyers out there, some of whom have been looking for years or months for the right home. They're waiting for your home to pop onto the market. Justin and I and all of our colleagues have worked with these buyers. In some cases, we've been working with them for months or even years, and they are still out there waiting for the right opportunity, waiting for the dust to settle, waiting for inventories to increase, waiting for that specific home that they want that isn't like anything else. So we're seeing less market activity. If you see that section where the 2 circles converge, there's less market activity, and Justin will discuss this later, but it is very intense. It is still very competitive. And as more inventory comes online, a lot of those buyers at that right end of the circle who are hovering and circling, waiting for the right moment, are going to start entering the market and turn it back toward, we hope, a little bit more of a seller's market with some balance. So next slide. I want to talk briefly about, so that's 4 market types: balanced market, buyer's market, seller's market, and my term, distorted seller's market. You can use that for free if you like. So in a distorted seller's market, there's significantly more buyers than homes. Sellers are on the fence. They have what's sometimes called golden handcuffs, which means they're tied, in many cases, sellers are tied to extremely favorable interest rates, especially in recent years when rates were down below 3% for a time. Many sellers, many homeowners, including myself, refinance at a very low rate. Many sellers are reluctant to give that up to re-enter the market as buyers. We're going to address that a little bit later. And so also in a distorted seller's market, negotiation is less active and less common, but sellers hold most of the cards, if not all the cards. Buyers have less leverage, and there's extreme upward pressure on prices, even with fewer buyers in the room. So those are the four market types. I'm going to move now to another basic principle of what you're going to see as you go out into the real estate market as a seller or a buyer, and that's market segments. I'm going to breeze through this a little bit because it's pretty simple to understand. The most active price ranges in our market, and in most markets, are where first or second time home buyers are looking, folks like you and me, effectively. $300,000 to $400,000, more or less. Now, I took these figures from a recent 1 month period. It's really not important which period it is. Justin's going to talk about more up-to-date market data. But in the 1 month period I chose, there were 36 active listings without offers on them, on our MLS. The average days, sold. The average days on market for those listings was 1 day on market. And the list over sold price in that control group of sold listings was 8% over list price. That was the average over list price. Also, really important to understand, 42% of those listings had competing offers, and 17% of those offers were cash. These are numbers we've not really seen before, especially in this price range. So if we go to the next slide, we'll talk about one more segment. I'm really just trying to give you some examples here. The next segment we use is roughly $406,000 to $600,000. In that control group, during that time frame, there were 56 listings sold. The average days on market, though, was 17. And the average list to sold price was 5% over list. Also important, 36%, fewer than the more active range, had competing offers, and 23% were cash offers. You see this pattern emerging as you go up the price scale. There are typically more cash offers because there are more qualified buyers, more prepared buyers. And however, at this price range, there's a bit less competition because there are fewer buyers with those kinds of resources. I think the takeaway here is simply this. Think about market segments in terms of where, as a seller, your target market is going to live. $300,000 to $400,000, more or less, is where the most action in this market is taking place right now. Close second, $400,000 to $600,000. And when you're working with your agent pricing your property, I think it's really important to understand that those market segments behave differently. And I think that's all I've got. If we go to the next slide. Well, I should say segments mean a little bit less in this market than they normally do. They're still meaningful. But the thing is, buyers at lower price ranges, have been adjusting their expectations and maybe moving up to another level because they're not finding what they want in their ideal price range. At those ranges, at higher levels, competition is a little bit lower. And what I like to say in this market is details matter. Staging, presentation, marketing strategies, all of these things combined with appropriate pricing and an understanding of how the market works generally and the segment in which your listing is placed or positioned. All of these things are critical to understand as a seller, but also as a buyer who's trying to understand the position of sellers and seller psychology. All this stuff you should be able to talk with your agent about. I've just tried to give you a couple of basic principles. Justin is going to bring us up to date a little bit on current market trends. And we also have a guest video star. One of the things that all of us in this field are noticing is this. Many sellers are looking at sitting on a lot of equity in their homes. It's not quite a name your price market, but sellers do have advantages. They can command higher prices at this point. And again, many are sitting on a lot of home equity because of increased home values in recent years. So many sellers are rightfully concerned about moving from being a seller to a buyer. You can get a great price for your house, but if you need to buy in this market, you're staying in Madison, you would be walking into a highly competitive situation. Many sellers are reluctant to do that because it does sound challenging, and in fact, it can be. But there are some solutions. Part of it is good planning, managing the timeline, but also, as our friend Joe Long is going to discuss here, there are financing options and loan strategies that you can use to bridge the gap between being a seller and being a buyer.
So that kind of perfectly sets it up. One of the biggest things that we're seeing missing from the market currently is what are typically referred to as step-up buyers, or also buyers who are looking, or sellers who are looking to downsize. And so Joe is put together a video here that gives some tips and some strategies that those particular people can kind of key in on in their transition.
And I think we should mention also that Joe Long is from Guild Mortgage. He's one of our lender partners.
Yeah, one of our preferred lender partners here, Joe Long with Guild Mortgage. So we're gonna give the digital floor to Joe, as it were.
Thank you so much for inviting me to speak for a minute here at your seminar. Really grateful for the opportunity. And I've been asked to talk about different ways that home sellers can be home buyers in this market. And right now it's a seller's market. So that's really exciting for you as a seller watching this. And you're going to be a buyer. And so the same reason it's going to be a great time for you to be a seller can make it difficult for you to be a buyer. Plus, there's the question of, how do I move this equity over that I've built up? How do I become a competitive buyer on this new house? So I've got a couple of ways that you can do that, right? And the number one is, if you're fortunate enough to be in a situation where you earn enough income to qualify for the new mortgage prior to selling the old home, there's something you can do called a recast. So this is where you put the 20% down or whatever from your savings or a 401k loan or something like that on the new house, and then you sell the old house, and then you take the money from the old house and you bring that over and you pay down the balance on the new mortgage. And then you do what's called a recast, which is where there's no fees, and you take the now reduced balance and recast it back out over 30 or 20 or 15 years, whatever the original term was. And that's a great way, if you earn enough income right now and qualify for both mortgages, to get that equity moved over. Another great way to do this is, if you don't have the savings, but you do have the equity, you could go right now and get a home equity line in place on your property. A home equity line will often let you borrow up to 90% of the value of the house. So if you have 40% equity or 50% equity, then you could get a home equity line for the difference, and then you could take that money and put 20 or 30 or 40% down on the new house. Now you still have to earn enough income to cover both mortgages in that case. However, that's a good way, if you don't have the down payment and savings, to move the current equity over into the new house. And then of course you would sell the house just like in example number one, and then you would take that money and you would either pocket it, or you would, again, you could do a recast or something like that. So those are great strategies. A third strategy is to use a bridge loan. Now, the problem with a bridge loan is it will only go to 80 or 90% of the value of your current property. So you need to have significant equity in your current property. But what a bridge loan does is, this is for somebody who has their house either paid off right now or majorly paid off and wants to be a cash buyer on the new house. So you get the bridge loan in place for up to 80 or 90% of the current house's value, and then you become a cash buyer on the new house. So you can write an offer without contingencies. And then when your previous home sells, that pays off the bridge loan, and now you have no mortgage on the new house. So it's a way of transferring all of your equity over that way. If you're not in a place to do any of those things, then you could write an offer with a home sale contingency. And that would be where you're writing an offer on the new house contingent on the old home selling. That can work against you in this market, but not in every case. Homes are selling quickly, and it really kind of depends on the number of offers on the house you're writing an offer on, the temperance of the seller and the listing agent. And those are the things that the Witkins Realty Team can help you expertly negotiate through. And then there's one final strategy, which is to pay cash and use something called delayed financing. So if you're lucky enough to have a lot of savings or a large 401k or a family member with cash, and they're willing to give you the money to become a cash buyer, what you could do in this case is buy the new home cash, then sell your previous residence, and do something called delayed financing. Now, this is where you don't qualify from an income standpoint to carry both mortgages. But if you do delayed financing, what you can do is a cash out refinance very quickly after you close on the new house. So house A sells, and then house B, which you paid cash for using your 401k savings or family funds, you do a cash out refinance to 70 or 80% of the value of that house, pull all of the money back out, replenish the original funds that way, and then you have the 80% mortgage on the new property. So that can be a great strategy if you're fortunate enough to be flush with cash or have a family member, but not earning enough income to qualify for carrying both mortgages at the same time. So there's lots of ways to get it done if you're in a good spot. And because you're at a seller seminar, that means that you have some equity to use. Congratulations. The Witkins Realty Team is awesome at what they do. They will help you expertly guide you through this, and they can put you in touch with me or other great lenders to help you out in this scenario. Feel free to reach out with any questions, and thanks so much for your time.
Really fantastic stuff there. So many takeaways, right? So really what we're trying to illustrate is trying to architect out for the typical home seller, what are some of the options that you have available to you to be able to go from property X into property Y. So whether you're looking to step up or whether you're looking to step down, it's important to know that you have those options and resources available to you. I would say, what we're seeing in this market, one of the things is how important it is to work with an agent that is seasoned and can actually sit down with you and look at your particular specific situation and really develop a strategy and a game plan for making all of those moving pieces line up. What we've kind of heard it referred to as is the flight to quality. The industry, the realtor industry is interesting in the fact that we're at a peak of agents that are out there and active in South Central Wisconsin, while at the same time inventory, and when we say inventory, we're really discussing the number of houses that are available out there for the average buyer to purchase, right? So who you partner with is incredibly important on the realtor side of things, as well as the lender side of things. So wanted to highlight that we're always here, and truly one of our goals is to be a resource for the general public. And there's not necessarily any right or wrong answer of when, if you have been considering selling, of when to begin to involve a real estate professional. So, we've worked with people that have really wanted to get out in front of things. So, we're seeing as early as a year out from those beginning planning stages of like, we know this is on the horizon. The benefits of doing that can really be our trained eyes. I always say when I meet with sellers, I'm going to put on my buyer's cap as I do the tour of their property, and we can kind of help set the agenda of the projects that may or may not need to be addressed.
But I want to say also, I think that one of the key issue here for sellers who know they can get their house sold quickly, but also are re-entering the market as buyers in a very challenging market. I think what you said was critical, and that's that you got to start early, because really this is as much about time as it is about money, because it's very simple. If I'm able to sell my house in a weekend and I close in 30 days, great. I'm going to walk away in this market with a nice return on my original investment. But I'm going to be entering a market that doesn't like buyers that much. And so you're not going to be able, as in a balanced market, you're not going to be able to walk back into the market and pick up a home off the shelf. It takes time. And I think that what Justin said links very well to what our friend Joe said. And in a sense, it is all about managing that time or that timeline. And I think what's critical in linking these two parts of the presentation, Justin's comments and Joe Long's comments, is that in a sense, what you're looking for as a seller segue into a buyer is to buy time, in effect. And these financing instruments that Joe Long was referring to, I think, can assist you in doing that. And also, to build just one further comment on what Justin said, I think what we're trying to do with these sessions is not necessarily to give you a list of things that you need to know about immediately. What we're trying to impart, I think, and it's important to link back to what our friend Joe said, is simply that there are instruments out there are methods out there that can help you to buy time. It's not necessarily even the specifics of them. But if you start exploring these options with a lender, with your realtor, a good lender and a good realtor is going to know where to find those options.
So again, everybody's situation is unique, and really looping in, we always refer to it as building your team. That is a critical step in the process, and not necessarily any right or wrong. Again, it is different per seller's specific situation, but I would say on average, if you know that you're going to be selling, about 3 months prior to when you want to have that action taking place is a really good time to check in with people. So let's do an overview of what we're seeing on the Madison area housing market for Q1 here in 2023. So obviously a lot to unpack. Our team always prides ourselves on not only our service, but also how up to date and keyed in we stay with what's actually happening out there on the market. So data, I mean, we love data. If you know me, you know I actually love it when the census comes out, because there's just so many different things that we can dive into. And
one of my own first early COVID projects was actually, I did a population analysis of Madison's growth since 1960.
This is what we do in our spare time. Maybe don't grab dinner, because the conversation can sometimes be dry. But let's take a look at kind of some of the key dynamic factors of it. So here we have a market snapshot of the last 12 months of change in the estimated value of a property in Madison. So within the last year here, the median home price is right around $366,000. So again, we've kind of discussed how there are a substantial amount of different market segments out there. But if we're looking at all of the single family homes, and this includes condos that have sold within Madison within the last 12 months, take all of that and average it out, 366,000 is what we're seeing. Good to know too, I kind of wanted to give a plug that there are a substantial amount of pretty affordable condos in Madison. So if you're a seller who is looking to downsize, The good news is you can likely purchase that property with cash and still walk away with discretionary funds that, if you're on a fixed income, all of that good stuff, that could help out substantially.
And also to touch on the specific issue of condos for just a second, the condo market does also behave differently. We can think of it as a kind of another segment. I think in my experience so far this year, the condo market is a bit less competitive. So downsizers, I think, will have options out there.
So key takeaways here, really, the change over the last 12 months. Inventory is hands down what is driving the prices, right? So on average, year to date, these statistics are up through April of this year. Average house is experiencing about a 6.75% increase in property value. The one that really jumps out at me in this particular graph is the one all the way over on the far right-hand side. So that's taking a look at the average property value increase in Madison for the last 36 months. And that's a staggering 31.49%. So what does that mean for the average homeowner, right? If you're already in the game, let's just for simple math, take the example of if you purchased a property for $350,000 3 years ago, what that means for you as of April of this year is you've accumulated $126,000 of equity just for owning that property. So I think it's important for most sellers out there to know that you're more than likely sitting on a mountain of equity. And so again, back to us, our goals are to be a resource to you. So even if it's just for checking in, we wanted to highlight the fact that we're always here and available to do a specific market analysis for your individual property. The next thing that we kind of wanted to take a look at here, and some of these we're not trying to hammer you over the head with statistics, but
although we also kind of
are, is list price, right? So there's a difference between the median home price and what the median list price is. So right now, again, this is up through April of this year, the median price of a property that's coming to market is $397,000. So again, just over the median home value within Madison. The really interesting thing, so as of the last month here, houses were selling on average for 3% more than the list price. So to set some expectations, again, we're kind of speaking in broad strokes to the middle. It will have some discrepancies depending upon what price segment of the market that you're in, but between 3% and 5% over the list price is what we're seeing right now as the average offer that's getting accepted. So sellers name your price, right? And not only over asking price, but typically multiple offer situation and favorable terms.
I think we heard from one of our lender partners recently that in terms of the persistence or the consistency of homes selling for over list price, Madison is a pretty unique market in the country, where this percentage of sold over list price is actually not only fairly consistent, but also increasing.
One of the very few remaining markets in the country, from what we were told, that even with the increase in interest rates, where we're still seeing properties being sold over asking price, and those price increases still occurring. So I think the important thing to really note here is illustrated on this next graph, and that's directly correlated to inventory. So back to what we were discussing about it being a distorted seller's market, this graph, we're taking a look at inventory in Madison. Data's a little bit small here to see. We're looking at about a 5-year period here.
Yeah, 2018. Yeah.
So if you're following along at home, it's a challenge, right? We're seeing the inventory just precipitously go down. So we're at a low, almost a 10-year low period of inventory or available houses that are for sale for the average buyer out there. So the good news, from what we're hearing from the national analysts and what we're seeing locally, there's not any concern with prices taking a substantial correction because prices are continuing to increase.
And this is definitely not unique in the country in terms of the lack of inventory. What is unique, I think, is that Madison's pretty resilient economy continues to exert such upward pressure on prices.
Another statistic that was shared with us from a lender partner is in April, around 43% of the purchases that were made are still happening with cash. So again, different from the last downturn in the housing market that we saw. There's not people extending themselves out substantially to be able to purchase a property. So another key factor, if I'm a seller looking to segue into listing my property, is average number of days on the market. And this graph is really good because, again, this breaks down by those price segments. So that top blue line represents the top 90% of property values, right? So more than likely in Madison, prices above 900,000, and it kind of does what you would anticipate that it does. Is the higher the price of your property, typically the longer that it takes, or the more days on the market that we're seeing it take from time that it goes live onto the MLS to the time that we meet at the closing table. So the yellow line on there represents about the median sale price of a property in Dane County currently. So 50 days is right about average. And again, if you factor that working through the underwriting process of a typical finance purchase, usually around 30 to 35 days, what the takeaway that I get from that is typically about 15 days live on the MLS prior to having an accepted offer and beginning to move forward. Some other interesting things and takeaways for the current market here. The market list price currently is a little bit higher, $464,000. So again, the listings that we're seeing come to market are at this point a little bit above what the median home value is within the area. So one of the segments that's been moving the slowest is those step-up buyers, because there's just not as many properties coming available for them to step up into. Something that we wanted to highlight, new construction is kind of the bright spot on inventory currently. New housing starts are increasing. we have really established relationships with several new home builders in the area. And it's important to know that we can also be a resource for you in that area as well. On the national level, the bright spot has been that home builders are starting to build more of the starter home and entry level price point houses. So things are slowly transitioning to a balanced market. But it's important to know real estate is hyper local. So in Dane County, you know, I don't have a crystal ball, but the prediction is probably a continued 3 to 5 year period before inventory starts to keep pace with buyer demand. So,
actually, can I add a couple of quick things to that? We're running out of time here, but I did get a comment from someone on my own Facebook page where this is being streamed. While the home builder, or rather, while the new home construction figures are positive, trending upward, we're still on track to build in the comments 400,000 too few homes this year in the nation to keep up with household growth. That's important to understand because it's going to continue to drive that market. As Justin said, though, real estate is hyper-local, and location pertains to almost everything we do. And yeah, I just wanted to mention that because it had come in through the comments on my page.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Highlights a couple of other things that I had kind of hoped to discuss. This could be an amazing time. So if you're an individual that owns, you know, maybe a couple income properties or a second home, this is more than likely the best time that we've seen in the last decade to put that property on the market. There's all sorts of options. If you're looking to still shelter the capital gains on that, we have some pretty interesting opportunities that investors can pursue as well. So if you're tired of being a landlord, this could be just about the best time that we've seen in foreseeable memory to kind of put those on the market and take advantage of things being weighted in your favor. One of the other things that we've seen kind of come up is the highest price per finished square foot. Just last month, we surpassed that. So in 2022, in April of 2022, that number was about $227 per finished square foot. Today, as it stands, we're seeing hovering right around 240. So back to our discussion previously about new construction, that is starting to come in line even with resale homes. So important to know that that is also a big opportunity if you're looking to transition up or downsize. So thank you so much for your time. These are intended to be interactive presentations, so we continue to do these and try and get the knowledge out there. We are available to you guys. We want to be a resource. So at any point that you have questions, we do totally encourage you and invite you to tune in and ask those questions.
Realtors are also very, very easy to find. So our phone numbers, our email addresses are readily available. Also, if you're looking, excuse me, if you're looking at us through a streaming service, certainly message us. We're very easy to find.
And if you don't follow our page yet, be sure and smash that like button. We do have some really good content coming up that discusses kind of 9 key points of why inventory has continued to stay so low. In closing here, just wanted to highlight a couple of events that we've got coming up. We absolutely love Madison. I'd like to say we are Madison, right? And one of our favorite things is to help people find their Madison, whatever that means for you, whatever you're interested in. I really feel that our community has so much to offer, that it's out there and it's available for everyone. And we definitely try and make that a point to keep that at the forefront whenever we work with buyers or sellers. So something fun this year, Cars on State. It's a classic car show, and that's going to be from June 3rd. Starts at 10 a.m. and it goes until 3 p.m. And this year we are one of the primary sponsors of the event. We've got 116 classic cars to date, so they're going to span from the 100 block of State all the way down to the 600 block. And we've got some cars from the early 1900s all the way up through the 1980s. I happen to know there's going to be multiple DeLoreans there. So if you're interested in 80s nostalgia, that's a fantastic thing. We're going to be set up on the 300 block. We'll have a booth, and we're just there to meet and greet and, mix and mingle. So if you have questions on real estate, or if you just want to come and say, hey, we certainly welcome that. And the other thing that we are just beyond excited about, the second annual Make Music Madison concert. We are...
I should say our second annual.
Our second
That's
annual,
been going on for a long time.
Yeah, correct. So June 21st, we are renting out the Rainbow Pavilion at Warner Park. And we have 7 amazing, talented local bands. They're going to be joining us starting at 11:30 in the morning and going all the way until 8:30 at night. We're going to have food carts there. It's going to be amazing. We're complimentary beverages for clients. So definitely hope that you can come and share some portion of the day. Last year, even though it was hot, we set the stage up and the event happens right around the duck pond. So we had an unbelievable cool breeze, and also the pavilion itself offers quite a bit of shade. So hope that you can come on out and join us June 21st. Super excited about that.
We should mention also, I think that it was so much fun last year.
So
And B, we're, I think, one of the only Make Music Madison events on the north side. Is that correct? I mean, there's another event going on in Warner Park earlier in the day, but I think that we're the major event on the north side of town, and that's kind of cool, I think.
Yeah, definitely trying to provide some arts and some music to some of the communities that were a little bit underserved in Madison. So that is
a lot of stuff. Sometimes it does a little bit too much stuff. Anyway, there we are again. So thank you very much for tuning in. We do see some viewers here, and we've had some questions. And we are hoping to do this again at some point, possibly even monthly. We went a little bit over time, but that's okay. It's an experiment. And we hope to see you out in the field and maybe back here again at some point soon.
Thanks so much, guys. Have a great day.
Have a good night.